There are still billions of dollars available for businesses through the Employee Retention Credit Federal Tax Credit Program. Stenson Tamadon has helped companies with less than 500 employees retrieve over $3.4 billion in tax credits through employee retention credits. Call Stenson Tamadon today at 866-934-8461 today to start your application. That's 866-934-8461 to apply. Call now.
Welcome to an AutoSuccess Executive Spotlight. Today my guest is Peter Duffy. He's the founder and CEO of Dealer Image Pro. I'm your host, Brian Ankney. Thank you for joining us. Peter, tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the career path that you've taken to get to Dealer Image Pro and where you're at today.
Great. Well, first, thank you for having me today. It's a privilege to be here at Babcock Studios. Pretty amazing little place you have here, so thank you for having me. Mine's a little bit of a lengthy or a longer story, so I'll try to keep the Cliff's Notes version of it. But basically, I grew up in northern Maine and went off to mortuary science school around 17 years old. Graduated from mortuary science school, working in funeral homes and so forth. And I had this opportunity to go to Japan for a little while and go for a year there, work in a Japanese funeral home, which is a unique experience in of itself. And I was able to, at the time, kind of pick up a camera. And after I finished in Japan, went for like a backpacking trip around the world, basically, with some of the funds that I had saved. And I was able to, get all these really beautiful pictures from all over the world and come back to Connecticut at the time, working again in a funeral home in Connecticut after my trip, and started selling pictures in bed and breakfasts or coffee shops and whatever. And I thought, I think I might be able to be a photographer. And so, I basically sold my life and moved across country and went over to Ventura and Santa Barbara, California, where I went to Brooks Institute of Photography, which doesn't exist anymore, but at the time. And it went pretty well, with the exception of having to leave school a little bit early for lack of funds and so forth. And but I was just hell-bent on being a photographer. And so at some point, there was a general manager of a Ferrari store over off the 101 freeway in Calabasas. It was called the Auto Gallery at the time. I think now it's a Harley-Davidson store. And so he asked me to photograph the Concorso Elegance, which is a really big, prestigious car event in Monterey, California. So I went and did that, and I'd always loved cars. So it was like, it was interesting because when I came back and gave him these pictures, and they're of these gorgeous $30 million Ferraris from, the 60s and things like that, and everything in between, all the newest models of Ferraris and Lamborghinis and so forth, some concept cars. The Concorso Elegance is just a spectacular event. People come from all over the world and ship their cars in from all over the world. So I had all these really neat photos, and or what I thought were neat, and the general manager was totally blown away. He was like, I can use these for all these publications and all the stuff that we have to do. This is really great. And so it was like kind of in this aha moment of like, oh, okay, so my love of cars and my love of photography can kind of come together and I can do this. And so, feeding yourself off of taking pictures at car events is not going to happen usually. Yeah. They're far and few between, and they don't pay that great. So, I continued on that path, and then fast forward to, say, 2009, a general manager of a Toyota dealership in Southern California built a studio based on the whole eBay motor craze at the time, where people were putting all of their cars, or dealers were putting all their cars on eBay, and then, putting in custom comments and pricing and things like that. So this is like the birth of, even though there was some internet stuff going on in the 2000s, this was really like the birth of like where every dealer was now going to put photos of every car in their inventory online. And even time to market hadn't quite taken hold at that point because the percentage of people that would still go to the dealership like you and I did as kids, where you go kick the tires and go to every dealership to find the car.
Yeah, you got to see what they have.
Right. So the percentage of people that went online first still wasn't there yet. Right.
Yep.
So, and so anyway, they hired me to take pictures at this one dealership where they had the studio. So it was beautiful light and it was really neat. And then they gave me another one and another one. And then I saw the writing on the wall and I kind of grew and branded Dealer Image Pro to be a visiting vendor, photo vendor for auto dealerships in Southern California. And it went really well. And so, but with all good things like that, there has to be a push towards technology. And the same general manager actually told me, Steve Chapman, amazing guy, one of my mentors, kind of said, hey, listen, you need to start to think about technology, getting something inside of some sort of device that dealers can really find value in and so forth. And so fast forward to, say, 2016, we have a website that's doing pretty well. And people start to call us, even though we're just in Southern California and a couple of stores in Oregon, as visiting photo vendors. We're using cameras, clipboards and phones to figure out the day for the operations at dealerships. And so 2016, we're moving into some new offices. I have these really wonderful friends that own a bunch of Domino's pizzas, and they're just really great, savvy businessmen. And they kind of suggest, hey, Peter, you need to be able to expand this to other dealers and provide this service, but you need to be able to scale. And so, kind of in that moment, I just thought, okay, if I could get the dealership to basically paint by number by using a series of wireframe guidelines and train them to shoot within those lines, and then those photos would come to us every day. We could edit and publish them and put them online anywhere in the world, really. And so that's how Photo Assistant was born. And so then I, obviously talked it over with my wife because it was a great investment, but I think we went into production on that app within the month. And so within 2 to 3 months, we already had a concept and everything in our first app. And so, but the ability to do photos, video, and 360, and all of the other stuff that comes along with what Dealer Image Pro does now today is, it's huge from 2016. Big difference. So yeah, this is how I'm here today. So I've been in the auto industry probably 13 years or so overall, but it's been quite a journey.
Great. Now I have to ask you about your cowboy video.
Okay.
The one that has the weak-ass salesman that drops qualified customers on the lot and still wants a raise.
Yeah.
That's pretty edgy. Pretty edgy.
It is.
What was your inspiration for that, and how have dealers responded to it?
I think the beginning inspiration was really if you've seen videos such as Dr. Squatch or the Dollar Shave Club or anything like that, where the CEO or the founder is kind of walking and talking. And we've done other productions with me talking, but I'm actually not that great of an actor, and I have a hard time really, I can speak to you right now and we're having fun and this is all great. But when it comes to reciting lines and things like that and delivering them over and over again, I guess like anyone else, I get a little self-conscious about what I'm doing. So hiring a professional actor to do that walk and talk thing was important to us. And so, Quinn Wilson, he's done a lot of great stuff in LA and he's a really talented guy. We thought he was a good fit, and it turned out, obviously, that he was. But realistically, a video like that didn't really exist in the auto industry. So we thought, if we do this, there's a certain, you're right, an edge to your point, but it's important not to go over the edge. And I mean, in the writing room, we went over the edge, right? And we had to say, nope, that's too far.
You had to bring it back.
And so weak-ass salesman is kind of tame compared to some of the stuff we were coming to. And to be fair, we had a couple of auto industry professionals in the room during that writing, friends of mine, And they were more edgy than we wanted to be. So
I mean, most car guys, my first job selling weak-ass salesman was probably the nicest thing my manager ever said about me.
I'm sure. Yeah. So in any case, we did it. We finished it. And I would say within 2 to 3 days, it went to the top ranks of a lot of auto conglomerates because I obviously put it out to everyone I knew in my phone and everyone else. And I would say 90% of people, especially in this industry, can laugh at themselves and be self-deprecating enough to go, that's pretty funny. And I have those same scenarios at my dealership. So I think it went generally well. The other 5 to 10% may have been customers that might have been a little bit more conservative in their ways or something. And they did definitely comment on it. But at the same time, this is our personality. We want to show that Dealer Image Pro has a personality outside of the normal serious things that we do every month for us and for our customers. Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, I guess if you're going to make one edgy video, you might as well make another one.
We did.
You guys just finished shooting the second cowboy video.
We did. Cowboy Quinn rides again. Yep.
So, like, what did you learn the first time around, and what did you do differently, this time around?
Auto dealership wise, auto industry wise, I should say, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to ride it right up to that edge. And in many ways, this new video is 10 times the video the previous one was. So we're really excited about how it goes. But what we learned the first 2 times was we were asking the audience to stay with us on longer shots, meaning, Quinn was walking into frame and he had this kind of monologue or dialogue that he was going over. And something was happening within the frame. So it kind of drew out a little bit. So we wanted to make this one a little bit quicker cuts, funnier, and better written for sure. And then the second thing we learned was we had very little of what Dealer Image Pro or Photo Assistant could do for value-wise for the auto dealer. And so we wanted to make sure that we reiterated that in a way that was friendly and funny and fit into the motif of the video itself. So those 2 things we learned, and I think if it all goes well in the editing room, I think we nailed it. So
cool.
Yeah.
From those lessons that you learned, making those 2 videos, is there anything that you've taken back to your dealership business with Dealer Image Pro? Any lessons for dealers that you picked up?
Yeah, I think like just think outside the box. So there's a moment in this second video where we talk about, we have this guy who's on the video and he's kind of playing the LinkedIn social media salesman guy at the dealership, and everyone's seen them, right? So we're selling so much metal down here today, and they get all riled up and everything, and there's a bunch of likes, and it's funny, and there's a personality to it, and those things are great. But the fundamentals of content, photo, video, and 360 content, are that photos bring your car to market. Video is great because everyone loves video. I mean, we're doing one right now, right? Video content is huge right now. And then 360s are a reasonable way, a good way, if they're done well, to keep customers on a VDP, right? So they all kind of go hand in hand. But at the end of the day, the photo is what takes a car to market, right? And that is something that's kind of instilled in our experience working at auto dealerships as photographers and has created what Photo Assistant is today. So, we are sucking the creativity out of it to create this, consistent set of photos across the board. But also, Photo Assistant is the easiest way from point A to point B to get the proper result. So if there's anything I could, tell dealers or explain to dealers these days is, consistent photos bring your cars to market and get your customers to click. Video is a great way to, expose them to more content about that car. And 360 is certainly, it's more gimmicky in my opinion, but I'm turning a new leaf, especially with our younger crowd of my team that work with me every day. And, 360 is a good way to keep people on the site and keep people, engaged in the VDP. So.
Yep. Now, you mentioned earlier that you were the guy that took the photographs at the dealership.
I was.
And you had training in photography.
Yeah.
How do you help somebody that's not had, professional training in photography to take consistent photographs that look good, that are going to put the dealer's, best foot forward online?
Well, the short answer is to use Photo Assistant by Dealer Image Pro. But the long answer is if you are going to take your photo program in-house, for example,
yep.
And you're going to hire, a college kid over summer or something like that, and you're going to, and he's great, he or she is great, and they take a consistent set of photos for your dealership. That training for them to learn how lots work and video photos at an auto dealership are 35%, 40% of the job. The other 60% of the job is identifying the inventory that doesn't have photos yet, speaking with recon, walking the front line, checking everything with a clipboard and all of this stuff to make sure that you have all the photos of vehicles that are for sale online for the auto dealership, and then doing that job, right, overall. So it's a large part, an operational inventory efficiency thing going on within that position. So you need to train someone to do that, right? And as an auto dealer, you're busy outselling last month, right? That's the game, right? Like, how many more cars can we sell this month than last month? And it doesn't always work out that way, depending on the market, of course, but you don't have any time to train someone to do this in-house. Mm-hmm. And that is part of the beauty of Photo Assistant is we can train anyone. You do not have to be a skilled photographer. You don't have to be a skilled videographer or anything like that. I can literally take you, and within 2 days, I can have you shooting perfect compositions of every vehicle on your property really quickly. What that does is, when I used to train photographers, being a visiting, photo vendor, it would take me a couple weeks to train somebody. Not just to do the photos, but where are the keys, getting in the key machine, identifying what cars need photos, what don't need photos, what's the organization like at one dealership is different from another, those type of things. But using a device that has your clipboard, your phone, and the ability to capture those photos consistently within one device like Photo Assistant, it just doesn't really exist in the auto industry today. And I think, that's why we have the value we do and why dealers continue to use us, I think.
You brought one with you. Would you mind just showing that to the audience real quick? I just want to kind of give them a visual of what this looks like. So it's one device that does all the things.
Right. So we are the only company that provides the equipment. So this is an 11-inch iPad Pro.
Yep.
It has the same 12-megapixel camera that is on any of the best iPhones that are out there. Mm-hmm. And iPhones now are incredible pictures, right? Incredible pictures from them. But then we wrapped it in this really cool, high-impact plastic case. And that's really, branded it ourselves and stuff. And then the second thing, or the third thing we do here is put this camera strap. And this is like a real camera strap we get from camera strap making company, and they custom make them for us, of course. And this whole thing becomes the lot tool. So when you get Photo Assistant, it's in a kit in this really cool box with everything in it. And we have these small, like 1-inch, 1.5 by 1.5 inch stickers. And every time you photograph a car, you put a sticker in the top right-hand corner of the windshield. So if you become the the in-house photographer for, Peter's Toyota, for example,
yep.
You go and punch in and you go walk the front line. Anything without a photo sticker needs your attention. It needs to get photographed, and you walk right over and check on your inventory. Everything's live with the same inventory that's on vAuto or Inventory Plus or whatever it is you use for an inventory management system. And it's just all there. And so the other thing that separates us from any of our would-be competitors would be training, which is unlimited. So that college kid, when he leaves at the end of summer, you can have someone immediately in there within 2 days shooting in the exact same manner so that your customers are still having the same experience within your inventory and on your SRPs and VDPs and everything. And then the, getting away from myself here, but the other things that separate us are quality control, and daily editing. So taking those photos that are coming from here from good to great, and then quality controlling them at the same time. Are there paper floor mats? Are the steering wheels crooked? Is there a dirty engine bay? All of those things our editors know to look for. They'll flag those on our cloud-based platform Autoport, and then they get a notification. The user gets a notification the next morning that says, hey, you left some paper floor mats in here. Here's your picture. Here's one without it. Don't do that. And so we're just gently teaching them better habits over time. And so we can quite literally get any in-house photographer at any dealership in the world, from Oman to Canada to Mexico to the US, wherever we are, the same set of quality, consistent photos.
Great.
Kind of cool.
I want to shift gears away from photography and videos for a second. I know you're passionate about treating your people very, very well, and so I want to dive into that a little bit. Every business in America right now is having trouble staffing. Having trouble finding people, keeping people, and I know that you have some ideas that you're passionate about as far as how to attract and retain the right people for a business. Can you share that with us?
Yeah. So I think there's no shortage of jobs right now. So despite whatever we hear about economies and recessions and things like that, those are all, things that truly are happening. But I try not to let those things affect my mindset when it comes to building a business or hiring the right people. And I certainly am sympathetic to dealerships trying to find the right people for the right price. But at the same time, I think that there's been a shift, more so since the beginning of the pandemic, where entry-level or above employees now have more options to do things, right? So and they've had and things cost more for everyone involved.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that if you're out there looking, in my case, for an in-house photographer for your auto dealership, you might consider paying them more, because it's not an entry-level job in the sense that, like, any entry-level person can really do the in-house photography job, especially with a tool like Photo Assistant, but it's not cleaning floors, for example. And even cleaning floors in the middle of the night while a dealership sleeps is kind of a boring job, and you need to pay those people to be around, and they actually have to get paid more than minimum wage in order for them to continue to do the same job. It's not a fun job, right? So when you add something like an in-house photographer, where you're trying to, say, hire for that position, you got to pay them more. It's one of the most important things. Getting photos online for your inventory is one of the most important marketing things, the most, if arguably, that you can do. So you need to be able to pay people what they're worth. That's my personal opinion. And I know I'm probably going to get some pushback from that, where they're like, well, we just can't afford to do that, or whatever it is. You can't afford not to, really. And so when you pay people what they're worth for a job that's important to you, they get excited about it, and you're reducing turnover. Would you like to have a new in-house photographer every 6 months, or would you like to pay one well and get them excited and involved? A good leader will get them involved with their job, and they'll stay around for a while. And that person might become your new F&I person. Yeah. Maybe they take an interest, and then they are a star player on your team that way, right? So I think yes, there's a difficulty hiring people in the climate we're in, but I think it's important to pay people what they're worth to get them excited about their job.
Okay. Let's get video and photography back involved again.
Okay.
If I'm a dealer or manager and I'm looking for a candidate to take my photographs, like, you'd mentioned that just about anybody can be trained to do it, but what are some of the things to look for? I mean, what type of candidate it would be the ideal candidate?
They don't. It's not a position. The in-house photographer for an auto dealership is not a position that you need somebody to graduate a college or something like that. It may be a kid from an AV class that took an AV class in college and maybe understands photos and videos and stuff like that. But really, it's maintaining and organizing and knowing what's going on at the dealership ground level. So at this point, With Photo Assistant, it's not even it's a done deal. My team will, get you a consistent set of 33 photos if the person you are giving us is coachable during training. Done deal. So it becomes, how do we organize the person doing it, right? So if you have 300 cars in your lot and 80% of them have photos, hopefully, in a perfect world, and 20% don't, there's a running 20% that are going through recon and all PDI and all these things every day that need to be, identified, looked at, photographed, put online. So I would say the thing they're supposed to be looking for is someone that can organize things well and picks up on technology pretty quickly and understands what's going on. The photos themselves kind of become a byproduct of everything we do with Dealer Image Pro, because Photo Assistant is now this operationally efficient, easiest way from point A to point B for auto dealers. And so having someone that can organize is, I would say, more of a strong feature than having someone that's a photographer, because anyone can be a photographer.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, for a photographer, I'm sure that everybody watching this right now would like to have better photos, whether they've got good photos, bad photos, great photos, or awful photos. Everybody would like to do better. Can you just share with us some simple best practices that any of our viewers or listeners could use tomorrow, today, to take better photos?
Yeah, so Brian, these are things that they can literally implement tomorrow, and it will make their photos better overnight. Ready? So the first one is background removal, or shooting your cars in front of a neutral colored background.
Definitely not a dumpster, right?
Definitely not a dumpster.
Definitely not
because
a dumpster.
I've seen that too.
I have too.
Right? So the main thing is the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So just when you're at Disneyland with your family and you put the sun at your back and all the kids are squinting, right, because the sun's there, but they're fully lit and you're going to get a good picture. Everybody's wearing Mickey Mouse ears. It's a whole thing, right? So it's important that if you're going to choose a south-facing neutral colored wall on your property, that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So every time I park a vehicle there and I photograph against that clean background, it's doing a variety of things. Making sure that your cars are lit from the sun, naturally, right, by God himself, herself. And so then the other thing that it's doing is it's eliminating distractions. So let's take that one step further, because it's not just about you as a dealer, it's what you're doing for your brand out there for your customers while they're shopping. So for example, you go to CarGurus, Cars.com, whatever it is, and you search for a Toyota Camry in this radius, and 40 of them come up, right? 20 on the first page. And so you're going down as the shopper, and what are you looking for at this point? One, is there pictures? Because if there's no pictures, nobody's clicking,
Yeah, nobody's
right?
going.
Two, or the price, and three, the mileage, pretty much, right? That's like the 3 points that you need to look. But what psychologically stops you is the thumbnail of that car, right? So either it's a good picture or it's not. If it's bad pictures, it's usually the car has ridiculously low mileage, right? You are so, enthused about that, you're going to go there. But generally speaking, you go down those Toyota Camrys, and the first one that sticks out is typically one without background noise or distractions. No trees, no palm trees, no other cars, no dumpsters. The things the things you're talking about, because you put it against a clean background. And psychologically, that makes you stop almost immediately. So the number one thing you could do is either find a neutral colored background outside and start shooting your cars in the same spot every day, or two, putting or using background removals, which you've seen probably out there on different websites, which are very popular right now. One thing about background removals is, my personal opinion, is avoid using a picture of your dealership, because you could have just taken the picture in front of the dealership. And more importantly, I'm already on your website, so the branding has begun, right?
Yeah.
I'm on peterduffystoyota.com. And then all of your pictures, just show the customer, allow them to digest visually that vehicle so that they look at price and mileage, it works out for them, and then they're going to send in the lead form. So that's number one. Two would be obviously shooting with the sun at your back. Three, all of the normal things you would think. No water bottles, no paper floor mats. Make sure the car, in short, best practices wise, presenting a car online, it should be as if it's in the delivery bay, ready to go for you to step into it. And you've already bought the car. And the salesman's going to jump in the passenger seat and show you how everything works so you can drive away. That's the condition you should be photographing your cars in. So dirty cars or things in the car or crooked steering wheels or whatever, just make it an easy, quick, or not easy, but easy, consistent experience for the customer overall. And you're doubling up by making all the branding for your dealership and putting this kind of best spotlight on everything. So best practices, I mean, those things can be done easily. Background, either shoot it in front of something or remove it, light, and clean up your cars and shoot them consistently. If you just did those things, overnight your website changes.
Okay. Well, I have a question for dealerships that are near us. We're in Akron, Ohio. Have you ever heard of 50 Shades of Grey? Okay, well, it's a book, but it's also the weather forecast from October through March in Akron, Ohio.
Yeah, right.
So you mentioned using the sun as your light source. A lot of dealerships that are in the north or in different areas that they might go a couple weeks without having ideal weather. What are there any tricks that they can use to improve the quality of their photographs?
I mean, actually, when you have clouds over a sun, that's like a giant softbox. So it's not. So there's two kinds of light, right? Soft light, which we're all in today. We have a nice studio. There's not too many hard shadows on our faces. And then you have specular light, which is what the sun gives you when there's no clouds, right? So in a studio, you have what is like a softbox, right? And so you're shining light through that. It makes it nice and soft. All the shadows are nice and soft. It looks really nice. As opposed to taking that off, you'd have specular light. So actually, cloudy day isn't so bad. It's, I think what you're alluding to is the precipitation, right? So you got rain and snow and all those other things, in which case, you might consider a studio if you have room for it on the property, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's actually a perfect segue to my next question. I wanted to ask you about studios. Like, how do you feel about studios and like which dealerships would really benefit from them, and what are some of the challenges dealerships face in trying to have one?
If you look at a studio, we've all gone to Amazon. If you look at a studio as being a place where you photograph your products to show to the world, right? Like, pretty simple. And so you go on Amazon and you see fingernail cutters or whatever it is you buy on Amazon for that day, or Pampers, whatever. It's behind a white background and like it's very clear reading. You can read everything on the box and that sort of thing. And that's what you're trying to achieve with the studio. It does automatically just by photographing a car in the studio, unless you have logos and things everywhere. You are eliminating distractions, which was my main best practice, right? So that's important. But studios as a whole for the auto industry, there are a couple of options. So you have studios that are in a box, and typically, I mean, I'm totally spitballing, but somewhere in the $35,000 to $45,000 range, where maybe the lights are already included, not much of a turntable in there, that kind of situation. And then you have other studios that are in a box that are, the automated turntable styles where there's maybe other cameras and some software and things like that, which can be really expensive. And in some cases, there's, very, deep contractual year-long, 5-year-long contracts that go along with that. And rightfully so. These booths are extremely expensive. So, and then there's, dare I say, the Dealer Image Pro way, where any dealership that comes to us, I'll design, if you have a space that's, say, 24 by 30 feet, which is an ideal space for a photo studio and an auto dealership, I'll design it for free. And typically, within that studio, it's not super hard, right? It's flooring that cars can drive on, so there's all kinds of raised tile companies that do things nowadays. It's paint, so white semi-gloss paint, so you have a little bit of a reflection back on the car, that kind of thing. And then lighting. So if you just spent, ballpark numbers, $5,000 on each of those things, which you wouldn't, by the way, that's $15,000. So we're already way under budget. Now, the most expensive thing that you're going to have in a DIY studio, unless you're an electrician, is the electrician, right?
Yeah.
So if I have a pile of $5,000, $6,000 worth of lights, he or she comes in with all of the wiring and the switches and everything and puts them everywhere that I want them to be. For $25,000, you can have a better studio than any of those other studios that are out there. And it's not to, talk bad about any other studio companies that are out there, but it's just you have better results when you are able to design and do it yourself. And in some cases, those other studios, there's not a one-size-fits-all thing. So some of those studios in different places work very well. But I've also seen them coming into a dealership and they're all in a pile in the corner where they've taken it down because they wanted to reclaim the space for more bays or something like that. So it just has to be mainly practical. And I think that's what the difference between us and many other companies that are out there is. You can use Photo Assistant outside and we'll cut your backgrounds out and do it all, make it all look nice. Or you can use Photo Assistant in a studio that will design for you and generally speaking will design for free, and pretty much you can get away with making that studio for less than you would buying one from other industry professionals or products.
Okay. I kind of want to go off topic again.
Okay.
You are the first person that we've had in the studio, at least to my knowledge, that has an apple orchard. Tell us a little bit about Rancho Cortez, Duffy Vineyards.
Yeah.
And some of your fun adventures in being a farmer.
Well, I'll say first, I'm a terrible farmer. And then second, if you ever want to see money burn, buy a farm. That's the best way to do that, right? No. So all kidding aside, during COVID, my wife and I, we were in our house just like everybody else. And we were in, like a track home situation, but it's in California, and the cost of the houses were rapidly rising at that time. And so we kind of looked at each other and we said, is this what we're doing for the rest of our lives? We're going to just be in this house or go get one bigger that's in the same situation. And so, I was just like every other good husband, on Zillow on Sunday morning, laying in bed, and I found this really neat house in Northern California that needed some work, and it had been on the market for quite some time. And it had a 7-acre vineyard and a little apple orchard in it. And so we went up and visited it, and I just fell in love. And from there, I just thought, okay, this is a neat way for me to possibly show the personality of our family, do some, kind of social media influence type stuff, and just create something neat and also create a new and interesting experience for my children. So at first it was pretty rocky because we moved away from family and friends that we knew 7 hours away, right?
Yeah.
And then we get out there and it was a lot of hard work. And we certainly had some help, but at the same time, it was a lot of hard work, but it's just so fulfilling to, walk away from my desk from Dealer Image Pro every day and then go down to the basement, fire up the tractor, and then go out and work on it for a couple of hours. And it's pretty rewarding overall. Good way to unplug. I have some of my best Dealer Image Pro ideas on my tractor. Really? Sometimes I stop in the middle of the field and I'll run back up to my office and write stuff down. Or type it into my phone or whatever, because you have some time out there to think and really just unplug. One of the best things that I learned from farming is the auto industry is so fast, right? Our customers are really demanding, and that's okay. And we make sure that we have the support and the staff there to make sure that we're on it all the time. We can pretty much get any customer request through support within 30 to 60 minutes because I see the metrics every week. And so it's a fast-paced thing that's like, give me what I need right away. And with farming, it's a much slower thing. So you're watching grapes grow over time. You have time to, the weeds are getting a little rough out there in block 1. I think I'll do that on Saturday. You just can't do that in the auto industry. Yeah. It has to be now. And so the most wonderful thing, I think, that, being a farmer is taught me a great deal of patience and being able to think that I don't need things done immediately all the time. And so that's been a really big blessing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today, Peter.
Thank you for having me. Really, it's been a pleasure.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you for taking the time to join us today for this AutoSuccess Executive Spotlight. Today our guest was Peter Duffy, founder and CEO of Dealer Image Pro. We hope to see you again soon.